Hey everyone, BlueStar90210 again, and welcome to my Rogue Spear planning guide. This is the second video in my series covering the mechanics for Rogue Spear to help speedrunners and new players understand the game. Today we'll be covering the planning phase, as this is arguably the most important part of the game, right after actually playing the missions. Let's get into it. Quick disclaimer here. Yes, I know this is not what the planning phase actually looks like in-game. The footage is enlarged because, for some reason, when playing Rogue Spear on Windows 11, the planning phase screen is in like 640 by 720 or something and is really small and hard to see, but I just had to make do with this. I don't know how to fix this, but if anybody does, please let me know. The first screen of the planning phase is the briefing. Here you can get the lore and the objectives of the mission you're about to play. None of this really matters for the mission except for the objectives, of course, but the lore of this game can be interesting at times. You can click through the characters on the side to hear each of the advisors chip in on the context of the mission. Important thing to note for any percent runs is if you already have your plans made in advance for a mission, you can click the floppy icon in the bottom right to load in your mission plan on the very first screen. The question mark button will bring up a help menu describing how to use the current screen in a brief manner. And lastly, the final button brings up the menu. The second screen is the intel screen. This is all just more lore dumps, but it still can be pretty interesting to check out. People is for relevant characters to the story, organizations the same but for groups. Newswire shows the recent publications of Rainbow's operations, but of course they just refer to them as special forces, as Rainbow's existence is a secret. And miscellaneous refers to random things relevant to the story, like nerve agents or important events. Now we are about to get into the meat and potatoes of the planning phase. It usually brings up a pop-up asking if you want to use the HQ's plan for the mission, which if you click yes will give you the default plan for this mission. These plans aren't terrible, but they also aren't very optimized, so most of the time you're going to hit no. Or for full game any percent runs, you'll usually just want to tick the disable this dialog button so it doesn't waste precious seconds bringing up the screen. Here we have the first real screen of the planning phase, the roster. Here you can view all of your available operators, their stats, their lore, and their current health status. This is also where you assign operators to your team. You can bring up to 8 operators per mission. Typically the safest route is to bring all 8. This will ensure even if one dies, there's somebody still alive to carry out that team's orders. But sometimes bringing just 4 is all the mission really needs, and can even be faster in some cases, as bringing extra teammates onto a team makes them take longer to open doors and execute go codes, as they have to wait to do a stacking command if their teammate falls behind. It just depends on what the mission calls for. Now for the operators themselves. I'll keep the skills explanation very brief, as I plan to make an entire video explaining just that on its own in more detail. Each operator has 10 skills, each affecting different abilities of their kit. Assault is arguably the most important skill, as it's directly tied to their accuracy and rate of fire for rifles, machine guns, shotguns, and pistols. To put it in layman's terms, more assault equal more hit more fast. Demolitions is for the speed of placing explosives and breaching charges. Electronics is for the speed of lockpicking and doing electronics objectives. Grenades are the same as assault, but for grenades. Surprising, I know. It doesn't affect the speed at which you can throw them, but it makes them more accurate. Sniper, same thing as assault and grenades, but for sniper rifles. Faster firing and more accuracy. Stealth makes your character make less noise and also trigger less sound events. Sound events, to keep it simple, are random sound cues that can occur from things like sliding or strafing. Also equipment rustling. They seem to be random, but you trigger them less with a higher stealth stat. The next 3 skills are related to your AI's behavior, but it's really hard to tell the difference of these, so I'll go off what the strategy guide has to say about them. Aggression, an operative's basic nature. It comes into play only when an operative snaps or loses self-control, An aggressive operative may use extreme force when he or she snaps, endangering hostages and teammates alike. In similar circumstances, a passive operator may freeze, panic, or run away. Leadership, teamwork, and self-control attributes. A leader with a low leadership rating reduces the value of those under his or her command. The higher the value, the better the bonus. Leadership applies whether the team leader is player or computer controlled. Self-control, likelihood that a non-player operative will snap during combat. Once an operative snaps, his or her aggression level determines the outcome. Lastly, there's stamina, which again, I wasn't able to get too much evidence for, but according to the strategy guide, affects how many wounds it would take to incapacitate an operative. When you dig through the game files, there's already a section for health on the operator stats, along with stamina. So if we do a little bit of logical thinking, we can assume this to mean it's like a defense stat of sorts. With this in mind, the best format for most missions is bringing one operative for each squad that has a high leadership stat, then have them followed by operatives with high assault and stealth. Usually a little self-control and stamina too for good measure. For special objectives like hacking, explosives, or sniping, bring the best operators for those stats. I'll go over specific operatives in a later guide. Also, quick info about the campaign mode of this game if you've never played before. If one of your operatives dies in a mission, they're dead for good. No more using them in the campaign. Also, if they get injured as well, they will usually stay injured unless the mission takes place long enough after the last. For this reason, in an any percent run, you might want to take reserves or less important operatives in missions that you don't need the highest stats available. So if they die, you don't softlock or ruin your run later. Now for the kit selection screen. In this screen, you can set the weapons and equipment for every operative. There's quite a wide selection of options available. The game doesn't state this, but we confirmed by checking in the game files, but every piece of equipment you bring adds to your encumbrance value, which slows your characters down. Keep this in mind for speedruns, as going for an empty slot might lead to faster times if you don't need to bring extra equipment. First, you can set your armor and camo type. The type of camo is usually just a cosmetic thing, but for armor, the heavier you go, the more noise you make and the slower you move with more encumbrance being added. Light is usually the best for speedruns, but if you can develop a strategy that utilizes taking hits with heavy armor, go for it. For primaries, you have a decent selection of SMGs, rifles, shotguns, and sniper rifles. In the Urban Operations expansion, you can also get a machine gun. For secondaries, you have a wide selection of pistols. In a lot of speedruns, you won't even take a primary weapon. This is because pistols in this game are very broken, let's say. That and primaries add more encumbrance. You can also select your ammo type for primaries and sidearms as well. Then there's your equipment. If you don't need it, just choose empty as it will lighten your load. Otherwise, there's a large selection depending on what the mission calls for. Also, if you press the two arrows at the top of each selection box, you can equip that item to the entire team. This works for camo, weapons, and equipment. Next is the team screen, where you assign your operatives to one of 4 teams. For most missions that require eliminating all hostiles, bringing all 4 teams is usually the best option, as bringing more teams will let you cover more area and clear the mission in less time. Keep in mind, having more than one teammate will make them wait at doors to stack. Also, the operative at the top will be the leader. They will be the ones you switch to when you switch perspective with page up and page down. And also the one whose leadership skill will apply to that team. To make an operative go to the top and become the team leader, press the promote button. Oh boy, this is going to be the long one of this guide. The part of the planning phase that takes the longest and is usually even longer than playing the game itself. Welcome to the planning screen, a part of Rogue Spear and pretty much all of the early Rainbow Six games that everyone praises so much. There's a lot to get into, so let's get you acquainted with the controls. First, the keyboard controls. WASD to move the map around. You can also use the 4 directional arrows. Q and E to rotate the map. You can also use the left and right arrows wrapping around. Left bracket zooms the map out, and right bracket zooms the map in. You can also use the plus and minus magnifying glass buttons. Minus tilts the map down, and equals tilts the map up, for a more 3D-like view. But for a true 3D view, press V or click the 3D boxes on the bottom right. Whoa, pretty cool, right? I want you to keep in mind, this is a mission planner for a game from 1999. That's insane. Using all these buttons together, you can basically turn your planning space into Unity, except with some culling on the upper levels. To change floors, press the up and down arrow, or press the up and down buttons on the icon with the 3 sheets. Keep in mind some missions have a ton of floors, so you might be going through quite a few of them at times, especially with long staircases. For even more view customization, look to the bottom left. The first button switches the map and the 2 interfaces around, orienting them so the map is in the bottom left, the navigation is on top, and the orders is on the right, putting them on the opposite side. There's no other changes, just choose whichever layout is most comfortable to you. The next button hides the map orders, and the next one hides the map navigation. This maximizes your view of the playing field. We got our view down and can look around freely, but before we start issuing orders, what are we looking at here? The dark blue covering the entire map is the walkable terrain. Gray lines signify walls. Green lines are doors. Purple lines are windows. Red lines are locked doors. These you have to lockpick or shoot open. Blue arrows are stairs or ramps to higher floors, while white arrows are stairs or ramps that go down a floor. Click them in order to make your waypoints go up or down to the next floor. Green half circles with a ladder are ladders upwards, while white are for ladders downwards. Same thing as stairs. Click them to make your operators go up or down that floor. Purple squares are areas of note or objective locations. You can also view what information is written about them in the Recon tab under Landmarks. Yellow squares are mission objective areas. Same thing as the purple squares. You can find their description under Landmarks. Blue dots with white semi-squares around them are known hostages. Hostages are guaranteed to be at this position. Teal dots with the gray semi-squares are possible hostages. The ones with white semi-squares are hostage objectives. They're basically the same thing as known hostages. Orange crosses are possible terrorists. Red crosses are guaranteed terrorists. Bright red crosses are terrorist objectives. These are terrorists you specifically have to eliminate to complete the mission. Probably the 2 rarest icons, these red barbells with arrows are enemy vehicles, and the blue ones are friendly vehicles. They hardly pop up in missions, but it's good to know what they are. Light blue zones are insertion zones. These are areas where you can have your operatives start a mission. This is where you'll place your first waypoints. Also a small note, be sure to check the maps thoroughly. Sometimes there are more than one insertion zones in a mission, and can completely change how you want to tackle the mission. Some insertion zones are much better than others, and other times you just want to split your coverage over a map. And finally, white zones are extraction zones. These you will either need to bring all your operatives to or all the hostages to, depending on the objectives of the mission. Sometimes there won't be an extraction, if the objective is to clear all terrorists, for example. You can check where each of these markers are in the Recon tab on the top left, if you're in the default layout. You can switch through all hostages, terrorists, and landmarks with this menu, and also hide whichever ones you don't want to see. The legend, as explained before, also displays the descriptions of these. Orders is how you issue waypoints. We'll get to that in just a sec. And roster shows your current operatives you're taking on the mission, along with their kit if you select them. Now we're finally done with all the explanation of what and how to look at. Now let's issue our orders. First, make sure you have the Orders tab selected. To order your operatives around, you're going to place waypoints which they will be following until the mission is complete, or until they run out of waypoints. There are many different kinds of waypoints to achieve different effects, so pay close attention. To place your first waypoint, left-click any spot on an insertion zone. First waypoints can only be placed on insertion zones, and once you have more than one waypoint, the only way to delete the first waypoint will be to delete all of them, so be careful. Left-click them on ladders or stairs to automatically ascend to the next level, or you can even go up to the next level manually and place it there, but it might do some shenanigans while trying to connect your two waypoints. To go through doors, just place a waypoint past the door you want to go through. They will automatically know to open it. You can do this with windows too if it's low enough to the ground that they can walk or climb through it. They will shoot out the window and walk through. Speaking of climbing, same thing. Just place a waypoint past the ledge and they will automatically climb it. The box with a number in it shows the amount of waypoints your currently selected team has. Each team with an operative must have one waypoint to start the mission. To delete a waypoint, press delete or click the X button. If you click the double X button, it will ask you if you want to clear all waypoints for that team. Be careful with this one. If you want to go back a waypoint, click the back arrow with the line. If you want to go to your first waypoint, click the double back arrow with the line. If you want to go forward, press the forward one, and if you want to go to the final waypoint, click the double forward arrow. The play button without the line will start you from your current waypoint and automatically go to the next every couple of seconds, like you're watching your waypoints like a video. Press it again to stop. In order to place waypoints for different teams, you click the four colored buttons at the top: blue for blue, red for red, green for green, and gold for gold. This selects the current team you're placing waypoints for. Additionally, if you want to hide a certain team's waypoint, click the colored lines next to the waypoint controls. It will toggle the visibility of that team's waypoints. Oh, almost forgot this button. The middle square centers your view on your current waypoint. Now that you have the basics covered, let's get more advanced. Let's spice up these waypoints, shall we? Whenever you place a waypoint, you have the option of setting an action to that waypoint. There's a large variety, so let's go through them. First is go codes, which are like checkpoints you can set on your waypoints that AIs will only pass through once you give the go signal. This lets you coordinate your operatives and time movements rather than just having them go through waypoints non-stop. I also covered this partially in my first guide on controls. You have 4 go codes available to you: Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, and Delta. You can use them on any team for any waypoint. You can also have 2 teams on the same go code to make them go at the same time, or separate ones to go individually. Be careful where you assign your go codes, as messy go codes are real, and you can end up accidentally putting too many teams on the same go codes around the same time, making them do actions you didn't want them to do. Next is ROE and speed. I already explained these pretty in depth in my controls video, so watch that if you want to know what they do. You can have a different ROE and speed on each waypoint, so you can have one segment where your team is assaulting, then blitzing and infiltrating, then cautiously reconning, then go back to normal and escort. You can do this as many times as you want. Now finally for the actions. These can only be triggered when certain conditions are met. 3 of them you can technically do anywhere, as long as you have them on a go code waypoint. These are snipe, cover, and defend. Snipe is how you make operatives with a sniper rifle pull out the rifle. Operatives will not use snipers, even if they have them equipped, unless you have this special action set. And most importantly, you must right-click the area on the map you want them to snipe. If you do not do this, their default sniping zone is underneath their feet, meaning they will just stare at the ground with their sniper rifle. Not very productive. So make sure to mark the area you want them to snipe with right-click while you have the sniping waypoint selected. You can also move up and down floors to select the area to snipe as well in order to make them snipe at higher areas. This is how you make your sniper snipe the window in the control tower on the second mission. I know one of you asked about it. The yellow cone in front of the waypoint marks the arc they'll be able to shoot in. And also, this is more of a control thing, but don't forget that in-game, you also have to toggle snipers firing with Y, or else they won't shoot either. Covering is kinda like sniping, except they'll cover a wider area, about a 180-degree cone. Important to note they will not use sniper rifles to cover. The only way to use sniper rifles for AI is with the snipe command. You can also mark an area to cover similar to sniping. Just right-click the area you want them to cover. Defending is like both, except they'll defend in a 360-degree circle, covering all around them. Another thing I should mention is when performing these special actions, the AI will be crouched, making them less of a target. Now for location-specific actions. First is the door actions. Whenever you place a waypoint through or close to a door, they will have a prompt to perform a special entry. They can flashbang the room, frag the room, and breach the door. Flashbanging and fragging are as they sound. They will open the door and toss a grenade in of that type. Breaching will make them place a breaching charge on the door, then detonate it once given a go code. These can be a bit finicky, so use with caution. Also remember that in order to do one of these actions, they need the respective grenade/breaching charge equipped. Lastly, the final special actions are mission-specific. These are ordering AI to do mission objectives for you, like placing explosives, bugs, or hacking computers. The waypoint needs to be placed as close to the objective as possible for these prompts to show up. Whew, that was a lot of info. That wraps up the planning screen, and you're basically done. The last screen is the execute screen, but there's a few more things you can do before you start your mission. Here you can select which team you want to start the game with. Make sure they're highlighted before you hit the green arrow. And if you want to make the entire squad play out the start of the mission automatically according to your waypoints, select Watch Mode. You can disable this once in-game by pressing \. This is also how you orient yourself perfectly at the start of a mission. And that's everything. Don't forget to save your plan. You probably spent a ton of time working on it, and it would be a shame if you lost it by just starting the mission without saving. If you do forget to save your plan, don't fret, as when you go to start up the mission again, you can load your last save using the milestone, or milestone, I think it's misspelled. You can use that save to get your last played save back. And when you go to execute the mission, it will give another confirmation screen asking if you want to proceed to the action phase. You can disable this one too by clicking the checkbox. It also helps waste less time in any % runs. There's one more confirmation box once you're in the action phase, but unless you're doing an any % run, I'd advise against disabling this one. This one makes it easier to time the speedrun since you can begin your run as soon as you click the start instead of waiting for the first sound to appear, or waiting for the black screen to disappear. That's everything to do with planning. Man, this turned out to be a lot more lengthy than I expected. I know the planning phase was complicated, but it feels like this explanation took way longer than the controls did. With this one out of the way, the only guides left to make are the operator stats and the gameplay mechanics. Hope you learned something new, and take care. Blue Star signing out.